All right, this is your very first lesson in the moon phases and eclipses module 1.1. This is just a very general introduction into moon phases. So make sure that you have this paper that looks like this. You will find this at the supply shelf, under lab materials. Find this paper before we get started. So if you don't have it, pause it, go get it, come back. Okay, so let's start off with the what. Okay, so every month, the pattern of day and night on the surface of the moon appears to change. Right, we see it in the sky, and that amount of the moon lit changes each day. Right, so the gradual change, because it's not a change that happens quickly, it's gradual, it takes a while. The gradual change in appearance of the moon is called the lunar cycle. Okay? Because it's a cycle, it goes around and around and around over and over again, and lunar means the moon. Okay. And remember, if you need to pause, if I'm going too quickly, you can pause the video, fill out the blanks, and then push play. Okay, so what we have here is a model or a picture representation of the Earth and the Moon and the Sun. So we have the Sun over here, and these are pictures of the Moon around the Earth, and we're over here. Okay, so here we have these arrows represent the light from the Sun. And make sure that you're writing this down. Anytime I type something in, you're writing it on your paper. Okay, so the light from the Sun shines on the Earth and the Moon, and depending on where the Moon is how much we actually see of the lit part. Okay, so what we're going to do here is, well, we're going to start here. Here is the new moon. The new moon is when the moon appears completely black to us, but it is the lit side is facing the sun over here. Okay, so then this side is dark and we can't see it from the earth. Okay, as it moves around this way down to the bottom, this right here is the first quarter. It's called the first quarter because only, even though half the moon is still lit, we only see, it appears as if there's just a quarter of the moon showing. Okay, here we call this the full moon, because if you imagine the light from the sun coming and shining to the moon on this side of, right, the left side of the moon is lit, and that side is facing the earth, so we would be able to see that as a big, bright full moon. And then this stage over here, this is called the last quarter. We can also call this the third quarter, but last quarter works too. Okay. Also, I will show you at the end what this should look like, because you do need to color this, but we're going to do that at the very end. Okay, now why? So why does this happen? Why do we see different phases of the moon? Okay, so this means that the sun facing side of the moon is almost always lit by the sunlight, and there's only one exception. It's except during eclipses. Okay, and we'll talk about eclipses on the opposite side of the paper. Okay, so the sun-facing side of the moon is almost always lit by the sunlight. Okay, and the portion of the moon that is visible to you changes because as the moon orbits or goes around the earth, moves around the earth like this, the earth, we can see more or less of the surface that is reflecting the light of our sun. Okay, so let's look a little bit more carefully into these phases of the moon and exactly the particular names of what they look like. Okay, this is like if you're looking at the moon from Earth, you're looking at the moon from Earth. This first one, we're going to call this the new moon. And the new moon is completely dark black. Okay. The next one is waxing crescent. Okay. Waxing crescent, because waxing, if you look down here, waxing equals growing larger. Okay. So waxing means that it's going to get bigger. The light is going to grow. Okay. Waning, and we'll talk about that over here. Waning is growing smaller. Growing smaller. So if it's waning, that means that the light section or the lit section is going to get smaller. Okay. And when it's a crescent, it means that less than a quarter is facing Earth appears lit. So this is like like when a crescent, it looks like a kind of like a sliver. Okay. Okay, now after the waxing crescent is the first quarter. The next phase is waxing gibbous. Okay, so we know what waxing means. Waxing means growing. Okay, so the waxing means growing larger. Gibbous is a new one. Gibbous is the opposite of a crescent. It means that more than 1/4, doing that, 1/4 is facing Earth appears lit. Okay, the lit part is more than a quarter. And I'll show you what that looks like when I have you color these moons, the correct phase. Okay, this one's going to be the full moon. This is when the entire moon is lit. The entire thing is lit. Okay, this next one is called the waning gibbous. So the waning gibbous means that it's waning means it's growing smaller. Gibbous means that it's more than 1/4 of the lit side of the moon is bright. Okay. And then this is the last quarter. And then we have the final one right here, which is the waning crescent. Okay. Also, it takes roughly 29.5 days to complete one lunar cycle. Okay, so once you have filled out all the blanks on your paper, I want you to get a dark colored pencil, either a black or a gray. You could even use like a brown or a blue, whatever, just a dark colored pencil. And then you're going to go back to this part, and this is how you are going to color the moons. I suggest that you color everything, because who doesn't like coloring? But I do require you, I want you to color the moons like this. Okay? So if you need to pause and look at this while you color, you can. And then this next slide I'm going to show you is how I would like you to color these moons. You're going to use the same dark colored pencil that you used, and be very careful to copy. This should be all colored in. This one is a waxing crescent, so you just want that crescent shape. Okay? First quarter is exactly that much of the moon is lit, and then the waning gibbous, right? So copy these lines very carefully. Like I said, pause the video if you need to. When you are done coloring your paper, you're going to flip it over and then do the eclipse side next.